Hello, welcome to another edition of the Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. Thank you for being here. The show already started before the cameras started rolling. I'm Norm Raymer. This is Big John Milkowski. This is Marty Ben, which could be his last show.
Yes.
The way this is going. I barely sat down. He's already all over me today.
It happens. It happens.
All right, we'll mark it down. All right, I want to start. We're going to talk a lot of NFL. We'll get to the Browns and Hugh Jackson and all that in segment 2, and segment 3 we'll take a look at the week that's coming up here. The Sunday game's coming up tomorrow. I want to start a little bit in college, but I want to acknowledge all the high school football teams that made the state playoffs. Congratulations to everyone. We taped this before the games yesterday.
Yeah, so half of them are out of the playoffs already, but we're going to congratulate you anyway.
And congratulations as St. John's shut out Central Catholic, right?
Yeah.
63-0, is it? No.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll take the other side of that, just so we're clear. If there's some action there, I'll take the other
Well,
side.
we'll have to run the other version.
Okay.
That we pre-taped. But they just released in college football the first rankings for the playoffs, and
Which mean nothing because
the biggest bowls. But I want to first acknowledge what they do in the state of Ohio in high school with their computer rankings, which are fine. Nobody ever complains. There's no controversy. My question is, does college football not adopt something like this simply because there would be no controversy?
No, it's because we can't then pick our top few teams to make sure that we keep the money where it's supposed to be. Because what if the formula said that Central Florida was supposed to play? Chaos.
Well, you would adjust the formula.
Well, that's
what they did every year with the BCS.
But,
Right.
but not Ohio high school football, nobody ever complains. Nobody ever says the computer points are unfair or anything like that.
and I've thought about that in the past, why you can't do that. But in college, they would have a problem with trying to, because in high school, obviously, it's by division, by how many kids you have in school. Well, how do you do it in college, though? I mean, can you really
you just ripped the lid off of Norm's Pandora's. I mean, Norm's over there pulling back the lid on Pandora's box so he can talk about how there should be multiple divisions and multiple champions.
Well, no, there's plenty of time to do that later. Hit about a month.
I mean, he was shaking over there, waiting to just go. Oh, I know how to solve that.
But by the way, no MAC teams are in this too. By the way,
no, but they're gutless because they put LSU and Bama up there, knowing one of them eliminates the other one, in a nanosecond, and Georgia and Kentucky are high.
not necessarily.
Oh, I swear that stuff's by
If
design.
LSU beats Alabama 28-27, you really think Bama's not going to make it? Didn't they not make the championship game last year?
And win it all.
And got in the playoffs and won it all.
And that's what I said. I mean, these mean nothing because, nobody's going to look at the first ones and say, well, this team is here because they were number one in the first poll.
Oh, it means something. It means something to all the advertising dollars spent watching people on several networks argue with each other for the next 8 weeks.
There's my point.
There's
my point.
And it means they can put a different number in front of the team when they play.
We agree with this ridiculous behavior or not agree with it. We agree on why it happens. They want us to all be sitting here griping about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talk about the Ohio high school code. There is no griping.
Ahead of time.
You beat who you beat. You get points for it. But how would you do that in college? The SEC is one group and the MAC's another. But how do you differentiate that in terms of like a division, like they do in
You don't have
high
to.
school?
You could still do strength of schedule and that type of thing.
Well, but
there's a whole bunch of people way smarter than the three of us who could figure out a formula that would be way more fair than what we have now.
Obviously, you could weight the conferences too,
Right.
based on how they did in the non-conference part of the schedule. For the few games where actually good teams play each other.
well,
Yeah, then you'd have people schedule in the bottom of the other conference on it's just
right. And
But they do that anyway.
but
correct.
I mean, Alabama won't play outside of the South and won't play a road game.
And they're going to play Little Sisters of the Southern Poor the week before they play somebody important.
Right.
And
Right. There's
I
way
can't
more
say the
ways
Little
to,
Sisters of the Southern
Well,
Poor.
it does influence college basketball somewhat. They're trying to get it that way to where they weight true road games.
But if they did that,
heavier.
then why isn't Notre Dame number one? Because Notre
Well, they
Dame
don't do that now. That's why Notre Dame's number 4.
But I mean, Notre Dame's played the toughest schedule out of anybody.
Right, which is
Won them all. Mm-hmm. Alabama still hasn't played anybody, and they're number 1, and Clemson hasn't played anybody either.
Because it's not a computer thing. It's not totally a computer thing. People vote.
Well, because they had a computer and they didn't like it because the BCS told them what to do.
You know, it's the only system where you vote for who gets in the playoffs. I mean, it's ridiculous. No other sport would do that.
There's a selection committee for the last, 6 or 8 spots is all they're really talking about for basketball.
But none of those teams are going to win the championship.
No other sport goes, you know what, we hate our playoff system. We're going to ditch it and just vote for who should be in our playoffs.
Yeah, if
how ridiculous that
If this works so well, why doesn't the NFL go to this? Instead of having playoffs, why don't we just say, these 2 teams belong in the Super Bowl? It's got to be Rams-Chiefs.
Because there's more money in the playoff games, which is why it confuses me they haven't adopted Norm's 12-team schedule, because I swear there'd be more money in that than all of this. It's very confusing.
Well, you mentioned 12, too, didn't you?
Yes, we agree. Yeah. It's one of the. We're going to agree twice in the same segment. This could be the end. I'm trying to redeem myself so I can come back next week.
Because I was at 16, and you actually got me back to 12.
I think 12 is
12 makes more sense, but.
Give the 4 bye weeks and play in games that are home games and go from there.
You know what I root for every year? I root for every year that everybody's got 1 loss.
Well, and the way this year's shaping up, you could have chaos. You could have a situation where it is a total disaster, and that would be awesome.
Hope so.
I hope there are 500,000 people throwing things at their TV on the last night.
Well,
all right. Again, is Ohio State dead?
No, but they should be.
They're going to have a really tough time when they get in. I mean, even if they only have 1 loss and make it all the way, going into a conversation and saying, well, we only lost to a 500 Purdue team by 29.
And looked horrible doing it.
Kentucky's not going to keep them out, right?
No.
Washington State's not going to keep them out.
No, the Pac-12's
If Washington State wins out.
If they beat Michigan, the Michigan won't keep them out. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the Pac-12 is rather chaotic.
So now you're down to an Oklahoma bumble again,
and we know they're not going to put Central Florida in there because they didn't do that last year.
No,
and they're not even in the top 10.
That would cost too much money.
The Big 12 and the Pac-12. I might have said Pac-10, Pac-12. Or whatever they're calling it today.
The Pac, however many.
The Pac no
every year
it's the 2 defenseless conferences.
Every year it seems to be one of those teams don't make the playoffs, and I just wonder how long they're going to put up with it.
Well, but the Big 12's remedied that now because they have a championship game.
And there weren't any MAC schools on this list.
I'm aware.
So maybe next year.
The best part of every week of my life is when you text me something snarky during a MAC game. I can tell time by something that will happen where it's either, headed for the national championship game because something good happened, or, oops, there go your national championship hopes the minute something bad goes. Those are the level of texts that I live with.
All right, we got to go to break. We'll talk NFL. We'll talk Browns when we come back. It's from our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
At Ralphie's, it's primetime football every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights. Enjoy endless wings starting at 8 p.m. each night and carry-out specials every day. Plus special pricing on all Labatt products, plus new craft and IPAs for the fall. As always, beer buckets only $10 Friday and Saturday.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Mortgage Marty here. We hear every day here at Fairway how tight the housing market is, how there's just so few great homes out there. And I want to remind everybody we have a fantastic suite of renovation products. They are basically designed where you can buy a house, borrow extra money over and above the sale price, get contractors lined up, and we pay them after closing. So the work is done after closing. You get to pick who you're going to use, and you can buy that house, fix it up, and create what you want. With as tight as the market is right now, in fact, I have probably 6 customers who are to the point where they're so frustrated they're about to give up. So just think renovation loan.
It's Notorious November as Powerbomb Wrestling is back in action in Toledo on Sunday, November the 25th, 5 p.m. at St. Clements Hall, 2990 Tremainsville Road. Former friends, former tag partners, the amazing Nate Madsen and the Bachelor Ben Boone battle for the PBW World Championship. 3 more title matches on the card, including you'll see Madman Fulton and Queen Aminata. It comes your way Sunday, November the 25th, St. Clements Hall. It's Powerbomb Wrestling. right, welcome back. It's the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's. And don't forget the wing specials at Ralphie's for all the primetime games Thursday night. I know this past Thursday night it had to be jammed because of that Raiders 49ers matchup. But also Sunday night, Monday night as well, and also half-price appetizers after 9.
Not saying a word.
Oh, you had plenty to say before we got on the air.
Well, I almost called them your Raiders a second ago in my head, and I know I'm not supposed to do that. So, the Raiders, a team you currently cheer for, and there's still time to change that.
Well, I'm not going to do it yet.
Have one of the worst records in football, and their coach is on a 10-year contract, and the Browns, who have had as bad a record as they did, just fired their coach.
Well, let's put this in perspective here on the Browns, because this is Browns logic for you. I put this on Twitter too. Hugh Jackson goes 1-31, including an 0-16. He gets to keep his job. He goes 2-5-1, out the door.
Against the schedule, it's not the easiest. And if they had a kicker, they're probably 4-3.
Their front office is, and probably will continue to be a disaster.
Well,
and until that's solved,
You can't fire the owner. That's the problem.
okay, and my point is, so apparently turmoil in the front office is the root of this thing. And the interesting part is, you don't just fire one side of the argument, you fire all the people who are arguing, which, like, you didn't know that Haley was going to bring problems to your...
It almost sounds like at home when both of my kids are arguing about the Xbox. It's okay, fine, nobody gets it.
Correct. We're sending you both to military school.
I mean, these two couldn't get along, and it's like, fine, nobody will work for us.
Well, on a side note, have you heard any problems with Josh Gordon since he went to New England?
Yes.
Yes.
He was late. Was he late for a practice?
Practice or a team meeting and got benched somewhat. But no big drama and nothing else.
No.
And they'll handle it internally, and there won't be a lot about it.
And he produced.
And I would expect him to continue to produce in a structured environment which does not exist in Cleveland currently.
One of the names that has popped up in relationship to the Cleveland Browns job opening, Matt Campbell.
We were before you got here tonight. We were discussing the prospects, and so Mike McCarthy, if the Packers decide to finally part ways with him, is I'm hearing number one.
That's looking likely too, because he
yes.
and Rodgers don't get along, and you're not going to fire Aaron Rodgers.
Right, and then
But why?
LeBron Rodgers?
Why would you go to Cleveland? And it's not that it's Cleveland, and it's not that it's the Browns. It's exactly what you said. It's the owner and the organization.
It's a mess.
Coaches
and I feel
go
bad.
to die there.
Careers go to die there. Marginalized players go to not play there.
Except for Schumer.
Well, there you go.
Well, yeah, he's going to New York to die, but yeah, I don't know why Matt Campbell would even consider taking that job unless they were just going to overwhelm him with money.
I was going to say, I can give you several million reasons he might consider.
Well, if he gets a John Gruden type contract, yeah, maybe, but...
Well, he's not getting it. Well, I don't know, it's the Browns. Never mind, I didn't say that.
But I mean, even 5 years at $8 million a year, I don't think is enough to sabotage your career to... I mean, he's still a young guy.
For $40 million, I'm willing to. Just say, Brown, Jimmy Haslam, if you're listening, for $40 million, I will sabotage my career.
Well, it would only make sense for McCarthy if he only had X amount of years he wanted to continue to coach. Say he only wants to coach 5 more years and he wants to cash in.
With that, or you got a chip on your shoulder and want to go prove somebody that you were that good, and maybe you can ride that a little while.
But if you're knowledgeable, why would you go to Cleveland?
Well,
not the city,
in
the
defense
organization.
of the Browns, for the first time in a long time, they have some young players on defense who are on rookie contracts that show some promise. Baker Mayfield, at least the jury's still out halfway through a rookie season, because by now in most Browns quarterback rookie seasons, you know that was another one of those decisions, right? So, I mean, why are you laughing?
I'm not disagreeing.
So I'm saying, so for the first time, it doesn't look like the cupboard's completely empty. And oh, by the way, if you draft decent the next year or two, there might be a little hope for
there was the first big if.
Well, I understand that Ken Dorsey's still the general manager, and
John.
they have the John.
No, Ken is
another failed
for the Browns quarterback.
I can see failed quarterbacks, failed GMs. It's all confusing to me.
But all the guys that the Browns always hire don't have any other options to go somewhere else. I mean, Mike McCarthy would have other options as a coach. Somebody else would give him a chance. The guys the Browns usually hire are guys who don't have a chance on other places. It's hey, you want to be a head coach? This is your opportunity. It's not like they're fighting for guys.
Browns, the Bills. There are certain organizations right now that seem to attract that.
The Giants right now seem to be.
Oh yeah.
Biggest surprise of Week 8? I think maybe it's New Orleans going into Minnesota and beating the Vikings 30-20. I mean, doesn't that tell you that the Saints are, a threat?
Or doesn't that tell you that Kirk Cousins is a below-average quarterback who got a lot of money and got schemed?
No, because it's not like the Saints were going in there 2-5 or something like that.
Well,
I'm just saying overall in the way the season's played out, though.
And the Saints did it with Drew Brees throwing for 125 yards.
Right.
I mean, that's what's surprising is, and they've shifted that way the last couple of years. They've gone to a run-first defensive team.
Well, Ingram came back from suspension, and all of a sudden they have the two-headed monster again, as opposed to just the speed back.
Right.
And they run that offense differently when he's available.
What do you make of the Lions with their deadline move?
Let's see. So if this was a boxing match,
Golden Tate gone.
I'm saying if this was a boxing match, what that seemed like to me right before the trade deadline was a white towel coming launching over the ropes and
With
landing.
only it being a game out.
Did that not say? I mean, seriously, I thought, well, they just lobbed a towel in there.
Now they
You're
did
like,
get
I
a
didn't even-
third-round pick, and they do have. I think they're pretty solid going forward at wide receiver.
They've still got two really good wide receivers.
I think it's
But-
it's a place where they probably weren't going to go forward with him anyway.
Well, and that's the thing. You weren't going to sign him, but if you want to compete this year, you don't have you have a little bit of a running game now, but you need those three guys the first staffer to throw to.
They didn't score around at Green Bay with Ty Montgomery, did they?
No.
Apparently, if you don't take a knee when you're told, in fact, I think it's a better thing they didn't just outright release him. It's a 2-year from now. Last round of the NFL draft pick. I mean, I almost think that's officially flipping him the bird on the way out the door.
Some guy
if you just release a guy, that's
some guy
one
that's
thing.
a college freshman
Yes.
you just traded for.
I mean, this could be the Mr. Irrelevant pick, or one of the last 5-10 picks in the draft for the Ravens that you just got 2 years from now.
Although knowing the NFL draft, the pick gets traded 5 times before it gets somebody takes it.
Correct, and then somebody takes the next Tom Brady with it, and then there'll be some bizarre trivia question about that.
No, that pick just doesn't count. There's certain guys that cannot be argued with in an argument. It's like, well, Nolan Ryan pitched until he was 40. Well, he was Nolan Ryan. All right, let's take a time out. We'll take a look at the games coming up tomorrow and Monday night. It's the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
At Ralphie's, it's primetime football every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights. Enjoy endless wings starting at 8 p.m. each night and carry-out specials every day. Plus special pricing on all Labatt products, plus new craft and IPAs for the fall. As always, beer buckets only $10 Friday and Saturday.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Mortgage Marty here. We hear every day here at Fairway how tight the housing market is, how there's just so few great homes out there. And I want to remind everybody we have a fantastic suite of renovation products. They are basically designed where you can buy a house, borrow extra money over and above the sale price, get contractors lined up, and we pay them after closing. So the work is done after closing. You get to pick who you're going to use, and you can buy that house, fix it up, and create what you want. With as tight as the market is right now, in fact, I have probably a half a dozen customers who are to the point where they're so frustrated they're about to give up. So just think renovation loan.
It's Notorious November as Powerbomb Wrestling is back in action in Toledo on Sunday, November the 25th, 5 p.m. at St. Clemens Hall, 2990 from Mainsville Road. Former friends, former tag partners, the Amazing Nate Madsen and the Bachelor Ben Boone battle for the PBW World Championship. 3 more title matches on the card, including you'll see Madman Fulton and Queen Aminata. It comes your way Sunday, November the 25th, St. Clemens Hall. It's Powerbomb Wrestling. right, welcome back for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. I'm Norm Weimer, Big John Malkowski, Marty Bin. Let's take a look at Week 9 of the NFL season. By the way, I just woke up from Thursday night's game. Just local in San Francisco.
Better than Ambien.
Here's the thing: unless you're a fantasy football player, you don't know the outcome of that game now, even Saturday night, because you just don't care. That's what I'm saying. Unless some of those players are on your fantasy team, and by the way, there's not many left to have on your fantasy team from either of those squads.
No.
But we've talked like way too much about bad matchups, and we got great matchups tomorrow.
And meaningful ones.
Yeah, I mean, we could start even at 1 o'clock with Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Huge match. Baltimore 4-4, but probably better than that. Pittsburgh at 4-2-1. So I mean, it's a game where Baltimore's at home. They have to win that game if they want a chance at the division title, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, and that is a game that they usually win, and that is usually a very, very physical, very old school NFL game, if you want to call it.
Because if you're Pittsburgh, you're more worried about Baltimore than you are Cincinnati.
Yes. You've dealt with Cincinnati for the last 15 years not being able to get over the top.
Since he's 5-3, but you know.
I mean, at the end of the day, all you have to do is be a wild card and stay on Cincy's side of the playoff bracket, because they're going to lose their first round game anyways, and you won't have to see them again.
Wow. No, but I think that's the key matchup. Atlanta at Washington's pretty good. Atlanta's 3-4.
Yep.
But Washington's leading the division. I know who you're rooting for and who you're rooting for.
Correct. Go Falcons.
Yeah.
Fly Falcons. Oh no, it's Fly Eagles Fly. Never mind.
Alex Smith is one of those guys. I mean, he wins games everywhere he goes, but then everybody wants to get rid of him because he's not the super guy. I mean, he won in San Francisco. He won in Kansas City.
So I have a theory about guys like him. Because the ceiling isn't where you want it to be. And I'm not going to do the floor is the ceiling thing or whatever that was. But since the ceiling isn't
Michael Jordan.
Yes, but since the ceiling isn't where you want it to be, you think to yourself, in the playoffs or in a big game, will he make a throw that I need to make? Can he make that Aaron Rodgers throw against the Cowboys a few years ago? No, he can't do that. And so I think because in your brain you see that, you don't celebrate what he can do and then think what results that
Well,
gets.
and his floor is so much higher. I mean, he's not going to go below a certain point. You know, and that's,
but so his range is relatively muted, and I don't think it's just not very exciting. So therefore, he's
right.
The Lions are at Minnesota. You know, they beat Minnesota. They're basically they're right there. I mean, it's
in a strange division this year.
Yeah, they're really only a game back. Minnesota's got that extra tie.
Well, and I don't know if anybody in that division's any really good.
Except Chicago's at Buffalo, so you expect the Bears to go to 5-3.
Yeah, Minnesota, who looked like the clear favorite early in the year, has faltered badly, and it looks now like there's really no team in that division that's going to give a run for
you might win that division with 9 wins.
Yeah.
It's one of those games, though, you really expect Minnesota to win that game.
Well, if they don't, that's going to be
one of
a pretty big marker for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's a 2-game swing, and Cleveland pulled the upset at home against Kansas City.
Remember that bet we were talking about in the first segment? Any of you Cleveland fans that want the other side of that on an even up bet, you just text me. We can take your money.
We go to 4 o'clock. The Rams at New Orleans. I really thought, I didn't say it on the show last week, I really thought Green Bay had a pretty good chance to pull off an upset because the Rams are going to lose somewhere.
Well, interestingly,
And
there's
really
now some films on how to defend them and what to do against them to slow them down a little bit.
But it's the top 2 teams in the NFC. New Orleans is 6-1. The Rams are 8-0.
I was just going to say it could be an NFC championship preview game.
I just don't count Carolina out yet. It pains me to say that.
Cam is playing better, yeah.
Norv Turner has embraced coaching in a different way than he has in the past and not tried to make him a system guy. He's coached to Cam's strengths, and it's producing results.
Well,
that's scary to me.
They host Tampa Bay, too, by the way. Go ahead and make your point.
Well, I was just going to say Cam is actually seems to be accepting some coaching, too, which I don't think he ever did in the past. Which I mean, you get a coach that has changed his ways and a quarterback that's changed his ways. I mean, that could be huge.
That could be a scary combination. I mean, and the weapons even Curtis Samuel's contributing a bit now. I mean, there's a lot of assets running around offensively for that team that are scary.
If you're Tampa Bay, who do you start at quarterback?
Is none of the above?
I start Fitzpatrick.
Is Derek Anderson available?
I start Fitzpatrick. I think you move on from Jameis Winston. I really do.
Jameis Winston is averaging a turnover and a half per game in his career.
But Fitzpatrick's not the answer either. So I mean,
Neither
is there a third choice? I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to tank, and then let's.
Because I don't know offhand if he's still on his rookie contract.
I think he is. They would have to re-up after this year.
Right, and see, there's no way.
And that's
no
the other
way
thing.
in the world that I do that.
Well, and that's the other reason you play Fitzpatrick.
I'd take a chance on Teddy Bridgewater before in his surgically repaired knee, if I was signing somebody coming off of that deal.
But that's how you tank your franchises when you give franchise money to somebody like that,
Well,
who's
and that's-
never going to.
Cannot be done.
Because, I mean, worst case scenario for the Bucs is that they play Winston and he has 4 good games to end the year, and then you got to give him the money because your fans want him to have the money.
And amazing, he plays
He's
undisciplined.
completely correct. Play Fitzpatrick, because you can't let that happen.
Right.
He's undisciplined off the field and on. Who would have
Exactly.
guessed?
Right. He thinks he's better than he is.
Right.
And he thinks he can make throws that he can't.
4 o'clock, Chargers is at Seattle is pretty good. Houston, Denver is pretty good. But the Sunday night, Packers at New England.
That should be good.
That is.
New England's defense isn't really what it was. I mean, you expect this thing, as long as the weather's okay, to be fireworks.
Take the over. Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Except you wonder what kind of running game the Packers are going to have now. I mean, I know Ty Montgomery wasn't Le'Veon Bell or for any.
He was a former wide receiver, converted running back.
But
now they have
he was their starting running back.
So in the whole balance thing, I'm not sure. I don't want Aaron Rodgers to have the ball in his hand every play, anyways, and then occasionally run sprint draws to whoever's back there because everyone respects that he can throw a ball where no one else can. So I'm not sure leaning on him isn't the best decision they could make.
Name escapes me, but one of the Packers' young running backs is averaging like 5.6 yards a carry or something like that. So I think he's going to eventually inherit the role, although they've been switching that off. But it's pretty good. And the Packers got to win here somewhere. So it's a tough schedule. But if they lose, they drop to 3-4-1.
Yeah, they might be behind the Lions.
And that would put them a long way from the Bears, who are probably going to go to 5-3. And the Marty Bowl coming up on Monday night. Tennessee at Dallas.
You mean the Amari Cooper coming out party? Yes.
Well, yeah.
I am so gonna laugh. You're gonna want to shut your phone off when he drops.
Wait till I text you.
one hit
Dak's
right in the
perfect
chest.
passer rating as a result. Ezekiel Elliott going off for a whole bunch of
Right.
yards, and Cooper with 2 touchdowns and 8 catches. And
He should be rested. He had a bye with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Got traded and had a bye with the Cowboys, so he's rested and ready.
You remember the Looney Tunes cartoon with Michigan J. Frog?
yep.
And when nobody was looking, hello my baby, hello my honey. And they raised the curtain and crap. This is exactly what you're gonna get.
Okay.
He'll make a play where you'll think, oh man, am I glad we got him, and then you'll want to strangle him when he has one hit in the chest. We got to go. John, thanks. Marty, thanks. Powerbomb Wrestling coming your way at 2 a.m. And we had such a huge event last week. So catch you at 2 a.m. and we'll see you next week on the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's.